Hey guys, what is going on? Round 8 of Super Rugby is upon us, and it is an absolute cracker. Take a look at this lineup of games, starting with 1v2. The Queensland Reds are top of the table. Not often you see an Aussie team at the top midway through Super Rugby, but there they are. They're taking on the Chiefs, refreshed, recharged from a bye. So that's the Trans-Tasman battle we're all eyeing up. I think we're going to find out if the Aussies are wearing the Emperor's new clothes or if they're the real deal. If the Reds can beat the Chiefs, that is going to be huge. But I'm also intrigued by Moana Pasifika versus the New South Wales Waratahs. We all want to see if Ardie Savia's men can back up their historic victory over the Crusaders. Was it a flash in the pan, or can they be consistent with their form, get another big scalp? We're going to find out this weekend. And I'm very intrigued by Blues versus Hurricanes. We're going to talk about the team sheets, but a huge name returning for the Blues that might just turn their season around. But let's go through the teams now and have a look at the squads that have been named here. Let's start with the Chiefs. And what I like about this team is it's very settled looking. You have Jacobson there at 8. He is the captain, and I think he's going to be an instrumental figure in this game. The Chiefs really need to boss the breakdown. My view is that whoever controls the ball on the deck best is going to win this fixture. If the Chiefs are coughing up too much pill to the Reds, man, they have firepower all over the field to hurt you. But speaking of firepower, great to see Ratama and McKenzie at 9 and 10. Now, Ratama, who is really considered the second best halfback in New Zealand behind Cam Roigard, he's been coming off the bench. So it's good to see him starting. I actually think the Chiefs need all hands on deck playing the number 1 ranked team in the comp. And then you're rock solid in midfield too with Quinn Tupaia, who's really playing his way back into an All Blacks jersey. He's partnered with Rona in midfield. And then you even have a guy like Leroy Carter, who's really lit it up this year. Not as famous as the man on the other wing, Amoni Narawa, but people have been talking about Carter maybe coming into the All Blacks one day. You also hear that about Macca Springer from Crusaders country. But look, there are so many good wingers in New Zealand right now. It's going to take a huge game from Carter, and he's going to have to play his guts out for the rest of the season to really be in contention because it's pretty star-studded in the back three for New Zealand. And then you have that man Stevenson at 15. He's been terrific in partnership with McKenzie. So those two certainly have that dual playmaking ability to really hurt the Reds. And coming off the bench, Samisoni Takiahau, can't wait till he's starting again. He's come back from a huge stint away on the sidelines, and it's just good to see the big man out there carting the ball up. So I'm loving the look of this team. But man, the Reds are looking good too. I mean, you got Harry Wilson, who has really been destructive at the back of the scrum. Fraser McWright, who's one of the best sevens running around in the competition. And I talked about how Cortez Ratama was back for the Chiefs starting after coming off the bench. Well, Tate McDermott, number 9 for the Reds, he has been doing some stints off the bench. I think the Reds have a similar philosophy here. They need their best players on the park for most of the game if they're going to get the W. Solid in midfield there. Hunter Paisami jumps out to me. He's been in good form. So really from top to bottom, it's a rock-solid team. I look at the props, Jeffrey Tumunga-Allen, and, of course, Alex Hodgson. I mean, this is the reason that the Aussie teams are getting on top this year. They have really brought some beef into their forward packs, and the boys are playing well. So, look, I'm going to tip the Chiefs to get the W here, but I think it's going to be by less than 7. Let's move on to Moana Pasifika versus the Tars. What jumps out to me is that you have Paia and Savia starting at 6 and 7, but no Miracle Faialangi this week. I think he has just had such a workload. They need to give him a rest. He looked like he played himself to an absolute standstill against the Crusaders. He emptied the tank. So I understand what the coach, Tana Umaga, is thinking here. That boy needs a rest. Otherwise, a pretty settled team. And look, when you got Patrick Pellegrini running around at 10, as I say, the best kicking 5'8" in the comp, you're always going to be in with the chance. But let's take a look at the Waratahs now. Very solid squad, but what jumps out to me is Joseph Suali'i. He is in the 15 jersey, and there's been a lot of conjecture about this guy. Where do you put him? Played State of Origin, now playing for the Waratahs. He debuted for the Wallabies before the Waratahs, but the question has been, okay, in rugby union, do you play him at centre? Is he a 13? Do you just put him on the wing to get his feet under him, or is he a fullback? Well, long term, I think he is viewed as a fullback, not just for the Tars, but for the Wallabies. So yeah, I think he's probably in the right spot there. And I think he'll be fine with his positional play. I think he's just such an excellent player. He's such a strike weapon for this Waratahs team. He was one of the few who shone against the Hurricanes with some of his big defensive efforts, snuffing out tries. He just wasn't helped against the Hurricanes when the Tars were routed. Forward pack was going backwards, and similar looking forward pack. So, man, I actually think that Moana Pasifika could put some serious heat on at the breakdown, and I think that is going to be their pathway to win. They've shown that they can score tries from their own 22. So if this game opens up, Moana Pasifika might just have the running, but Callaway there at 14, he's a pretty deadly finisher. No shortage of good outside backs. I'm actually going to tip. This is a tricky one. I am going to predict that the Tars will find a way to win. I just think it was such a huge exertion last week to beat the Crusaders. I fear that Moana Pasifika might come back down to earth. Love to be wrong. What do you think? Comment below. Let's go ahead to the game that I'm most excited about. Hurricanes versus Blues. Whoo, daddy. Now, that is one hell of a team. You got Xavier Numia, Safuamua, Tyrell Lomax. That's an all-black front row. Isaiah Walker-Leaweri, he's been making big waves at 5. Young, up-and-coming, but experienced lock. And New Zealand needs a bit of depth in that position. Probably still a few too many rough edges to be an all-black, but certainly he has been phenomenal hitting the breakdown. Iosi, Karifi, Peter Lakai, rock solid Lucy's there. Roigard, Hohepa. Hohepa needs to work on his goal kicking. He's about 61% in the competition. If this game gets tight, that could be a little bit of an issue for the men from Wellington. But otherwise, Umaga Jensen, Balin Sullivan, these guys have been in great form. Ruben Love at fullback, really one of the best fullbacks in the whole competition. So I'm loving the look of this team. Pasilio Tosi and Brad Shields, that's some nice dynamite to bring off the bench. But there's a big star returning for the Blues, and it's Beauden Barrett. He is back at 10. Stephen Perifetta, who was very rough, coming back from injury and playing behind a beaten forward pack. He's been 86th. With Beauden Barrett out there, that could really change the fortunes of the team. He's been out about 5 weeks with a broken hand. I guess we're going to see if Barrett can sprinkle some magic on the team here. You'll notice that Finlay Christie, who's got dozens of caps for the All Blacks, he's back at 9. So very much a theme this week in this huge round of Super Rugby. The best halfbacks are starting. They're not coming off the bench. I just worry a bit about that forward pack. Even with Patrick Tuipulotu back, even with Papali'i and Satutu at 7 and 8, they've just been absolutely woeful at the breakdown this year, the Blues. And I think the Hurricanes have too much firepower in the loose forwards and in the middle row and up front. And I just think there's a scenario here where the Blues set piece malfunctions and they get pipped at the breakdown and the Hurricanes run away with it. So I'm going to pick the Hurricanes to get the W. That's what I'm predicting. Here is the Fijian Drua team. Now, you got to remember, they're playing in Suva. Okay? So when these Kiwi teams go over to Fiji, it's often a graveyard for visiting teams. Fairly consistent squad here. It's not even about individual star power with the Drua. When they play at home, they just grow an arm and a leg. But they're going to be going up against a very motivated Crusaders team who was absolutely chastened last week. They got a real spanking from Moana Pasifika. They're going to want to bounce back. Let's take a look at their team. Well, the first thing that jumps out is no Ethan Blackadder. He is going to be coming off the bench. But that might be a good thing because Tom Christie is probably the best jackler in the team. Man, they missed him against Moana Pasifika last week. Miracle Failangi and Adi Savia had an absolute field day at the breakdown. So I do think that Christie and Leo Willie will shore up that area of the game. Another interesting change is you don't see James O'Connor at 10. That bloke who's played over 50 tests for the Wallabies. Great first 5'8", still looking good in his mid-30s. I think it is much better having him come off the bench. I think that's the right formula. He can calm the game down. He can bring the red and blacks home. But he didn't shine last week playing for 60 minutes. So I think Taha Kimura, a bit more mobile, a little bit more exciting, seems to be able to get the back line moving better. He's installed at 10. And look, a huge change in the back line. Sevu Reece gets his first start at centre. Is he big enough to be playing at centre? We know how much zip he has as a winger. How's he going to go there? I'm very curious to see that. It's intriguing that they made that change. To me, it speaks to their lack of faith in Levi Omua. Now, he's on the bench. He used to play for Moana Pasifika. He can be an absolute wrecking ball, but I think that the coaches would have noticed that many of the tries were leaked in the middle of the field against Moana Pasifika. So, man, the Crusaders are kind of trying to shore up that 12-13 channel here. Dallas McLeod at 12, Sevu Reece at 13. Could be really risky. Could backfire for them. You could see a little bit of a disconnect there, given Reece's relative inexperience in the role. But on the other hand, if you look at the front row, you got Cody Taylor back. Yeah. Not a bad looking forward pack. I think that the Crusaders are going to want to slow this game down, really go from set piece to set piece. But you know what? I think they are rattled right now. I'm going to pick the Drua to win this game at home. Okay, taking a look at the Highlanders, the first name that jumps out is Ethan de Groot. Thank goodness he's back in there. Man, they are thin without Ethan de Groot. And these boys, the Highlanders, have been giving away so many penalties at scrum time. They got dominated by the Brumbies. They got dominated by the Reds. So much of that came down to their set-piece malfunctioning. So while one man can't single-handedly save the team, I breathe a sigh of relief seeing de Groot in there. And otherwise, as expected, Tavatawa Nawai, Caleb Tangitau on the wing, two guys who have been absolutely massive for this team. But they're going up against the Force, who have been good this year. Let's take a look at their team. Solid lineup there. Number 7, Tizano. He's also been one of the most prominent number 7s all season, controlling the breakdown. 9 and 10, lots of experience there. Nick White, Ben Donaldson. Oh dear, guys. You know, I'm a Kiwi. I always want to go for the Kiwi teams. I'm going to pick the Force to actually win this one narrowly. So there you go. That is your Round 8 preview. I will be back to break down looking like Hurricanes versus Blues is the game you guys most want me to delve deep into. So meanwhile, please like, please subscribe, and I'll be back for another video real soon. Enjoy the rugby this weekend, guys. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.